Right, perfect. All right, sounds like we got a good chunk of people in. We'll go ahead and get started. So I want to first start off by welcoming everyone to the 988 Day Activation Workshop. We are so glad to have you guys join us today. I am Bree Carr. I'm a behavioral health project manager with the 988 Crisis Systems and Response Training and Technical Assistance Center. So today we're gathering as a community of partners, advocates, change agents to prepare for this year's 988 Day and explore ways that we can amplify its message and impact. So again, thank you all for being here and taking the time to to spend this time with us. Next slide, please. All right, so before we get started, I do want to give just a quick disclaimer. The views and opinions and content expressed in today's presentation do not necessarily reflect the views of Center of Mental Health Services, SAMHSA, or the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. We do appreciate your understanding as we share information that's designed to support your planning and engagement efforts today. Next slide. Right, just another quick introduction again. Like I stated, I am Bree Carr with the 988 Crisis Systems and Response TTAC. I will be co-facilitating today with Nicole, who is the director of the 988 Marketing and Communications Campaign at Vibrant Emotional Health. So between our communications and systems perspectives, we hope to offer you guys a well-rounded look at how to maximize your reach and engagement for the upcoming 988 day. Next slide. All right, so just a quick look at our agenda today and what we have planned. We'll begin with a few housekeeping reminders, then we'll move into an overview of what 988 is, what we accomplished last year, and what's new for 2025. Then we'll break out into small groups to generate creative ideas and commitments to action. We'll then come back together for key takeaways before we close out. Remember, we do want this to be an interactive and inspiring space, so please participate freely and have fun. Next slide. Okay. All right. So just a few quick notes to help things run smoothly. This session is recorded. We will have ASL interpreters available. So if you need ASL interpretation, if you look at the bottom of your screen, you should see a circle icon that's labeled interpretation. If you select that box, you will have a pop-up box that will pop up for you on your screen where you will have an assigned ASL interpreter. You will see that they will switch out throughout the session, but that's where you will see, and you're also able to message the host if you have any questions in terms of ASL interpretation or if there's any additional needs that you have. All participants will be muted until we transition into the breakout groups. And so if you have any questions that you may have throughout the session, or if there is any needs that you have, there is an ask for help button, or you can also utilize the reaction feature by raising your hand if there's something that you need or additional support that we can help with throughout the webinar today. So if you experience any additional tech issues, you can, again, also use that help button. And then one of our hosts will join your breakout groups to assist you further. One other reminder is that when you are in the breakout sessions, we do ask that you mute when you are not speaking and share your name before contributing. Remember that this is a space of first draft ideas and collaboration. We also would love to see your beautiful faces. We definitely want this to be face-to-face interactions and engagement today. And so as much as possible, if you're able to turn your cameras on, we would greatly appreciate it. We think it'll be great for continuing the engagement and interaction, and then also seeing who we're talking to. And with that being said, I am going to hand it off to Nicole.
Thank you, Bree. Good afternoon and good morning to some people, depending where you are. We're really thankful that you're spending time with us today to talk about upcoming planning for 988 Day coming up on September 8th. But before we dive into that, we wanted to just talk a little bit about what 988 Day is. And this year we're celebrating our second annual 988 Day. And it's really a day of action. It's a day where we're trying to mobilize people across the country to really bring awareness and some positive energy around the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline and the role it plays in providing mental health support to people across the country and the U.S. territories. We do want to take this moment in this day of action to really clarify what 988 does and what its purpose is, which is really it's more than just a suicide crisis hotline. And people can reach out to it for a variety of reasons. You don't have to be in suicidal crisis to use it. You can really just reach out at any time if you're in emotional distress, having a bad day, feeling lonely, if you're struggling with alcohol or drug use. Really, our counselors, which we have over 15,000 counselors across the US and our territories, are here to support people for a variety of needs. And we really want to emphasize that and spread awareness about it. Next slide, please. So we wanted to look back a little bit on what our first year looked like. Next slide, please. And talk about what we did. So Samson and Vibrant came together in a very quick timeline last year to celebrate 988 Day. We pulled together a 988 Day logo. We had a toolkit. We had a live social media wall, which aggregated social posts from across the country. There was a TV and radio speaking tour. We had press releases and collaborators from different organizations and businesses to help amplify our message. We saw communities and individuals and organizations really take time out of their day and their weekend. Actually, the inaugural 988 Day was held on a Sunday, and really come out and be really creative about how they wanted to express themselves for 988 Day. And we heard from a variety of businesses, trade organizations, schools, different influencers about what 988 Day meant to them. Next slide, please. And here we have a short recap video that we'd like to share with you.
Today is 988 Day.
Happy 988 Day.
I am here today to talk about 988 Day, which is today.
Hey everyone, it's Jacoby Shaddix.
And Carrie Underwood.
If you or anyone you know are struggling with mental health, help is available.
Hi there, I'm Isaac Matson, Indianapolis Indians pitcher. I'm here today to share how suicide has impacted my life.
I think of my job is to hold a mirror back to a person's own humanity. Hi, yeah, I'm glad that you called.
So a new tradition starting this weekend to help create better awareness.
If you are interested in
Today
watching
is
this
9.
video again, you can find it on 988 Lifeline's YouTube account, and you'll also find it on our toolkit website, which I'll share more information about that in a moment. But just to recap some of the impact we saw from last year's 988 Day, we saw over 152 million posts and reach across social media platforms. We had over 7,500 mentions of 988 Day across social media. Our social wall, we saw over 4,600 posts onto that social media sharing wall, and we had over 6,400 page views of the wall, which we will be bringing back this year in an enhanced capacity. Next slide, please. Broadcast media and media mentions were also really enormous in the scanned period, which was about 1 week. TV, online, print, radio, and online print, we had almost 1.8 billion views by the estimated audience. You can see YouTube was over 2 million, radio was over 3 million. So really an incredible outpouring of support and earned media from across platforms there. Next slide, please. So looking ahead to this 988 day, next slide, please. This year's theme is Compassionate Help Anytime, Anywhere, and this theme was developed through a collaborative process between Vibrant and SAMHSA. And we did also include our 988 Communications and Marketing Committee, which is made up of different organizations, state stakeholders, and then also input from NASHBID State Affinity Work Group Subcommittee. Next slide, please. And this year, you'll also find the 988 Day Toolkit on the 988lifeline.org website at 988-day. The full toolkit will be available the week of August 11th, but you can already find some assets there now, and components will continue to be added on a rolling basis. Next slide, please. The toolkit components this year will be expanded. We'll have a wide variety of social media assets, including static and video assets for social media. We'll have ready-to-go content for emails and newsletters. Zoom backgrounds will be available for you to all add. There'll be a 988-day proclamation template for use with government officials. We'll have fact sheets, school announcement scripts. There's a variety of logos in different colors and logo lockups with the actual logo and the theme. And all these assets will be available in English as well as Spanish, which will help lead to people developing in their own creative ways. Next slide, please. But really, 988 Day is all about you, your organization, and your community. And the best way that you can highlight it in your own way that resonates authentically. So our goal is for you to take all of these assets that we have in our toolkit, or just develop your own to bring what resonates with you into this space for 988 Day. Next slide, please. So in the next session here with our breakout rooms, we want you all to connect, make connections, maybe based on either what you're doing in your own spheres, maybe where you're located, but really talk about what you feel will bring positivity and joy and connection during this day of action. We would love for you to just be your most creative and authentic in these next 30 minutes. But Bree, if you have anything else to add, I'd love for you to jump in.
Welcome back to the main session, guys. Thank you guys for taking an opportunity to go out into your breakout rooms and have some amazing conversations, which I know you guys had. So we definitely wanted to utilize this opportunity after the breakout sessions to discuss some of your takeaways, some of the ideas, the creativities and connections that you were able to make inside of your breakout sessions. And so what would we like to see happen is for some of our group facilitators to either raise your hand or come off mute and share some of those takeaways and ideas that came up in your group sessions. Do we have anyone who would like to go first?
Okay. Hi, everyone. My group, which was the school-based group, had some great ideas, and a lot of it dealt with how do we collaborate with groups that are already touching the populations that we would like to make sure know about 988 days. So it's about collaborating with people and activities that are already happening, and also meeting audiences where they're at. So if they are accessing other human services or on commuter lines, or we know that they might watch a lot of college basketball or football, we should be using what we already know is the ways that are great communicators with these audiences to highlight 988 Day. Great social media ideas came out of our groups, including like get ready with me's and unboxings around 988 days. So like get ready with me while we talk about 988 day. So I thought those were great ideas and go school-based groups. So
Thank
let
you for
someone else
that.
talk.
Thank you for that, Cindy. We truly appreciate you facilitating that group. Megan McGregor, I see your hand.
Thank you. So I was in the workforce group number 2. We had a smaller group, but one of the things we talked about a lot was leveraging data from social media engagement to try to determine which is going to be most effective for us this year. So we saw that a lot of the reels were really, really high in engagement, videos, things like that, more so than just images, posts, things like that. We're really hoping to get some more collaboration in creation with 988. So instead of just tagging them, having them accept those posts so that it drives engagement even further. And a lot of creative strategies. So we understand there are some limitations to organizations when it comes to capacity and funding. So finding ways that we can promote 988 awareness without hurting that budget. We talked about things like scavenger hunts to find 988 signage, rock gardens, remembrance ceremonies, and tie-dyeing t-shirts. So lots of discussions on creative ways that we can promote 988 Day with still working within our limitations.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for that, Megan. Thank you for facilitating as well. Have a couple more hands for my facilitators. I'll go with Sarah Lund.
Thank you. We were in the lived experience and suicide loss survivor group, and we had a great conversation about broadening the message about 988, that it's for all kinds of reasons, being tired, being angry, feeling confused, feeling lonely, feeling isolated. So the broader the messaging, the better, because there's still so much stigma about suicide, and people are sensitive about curious about, do I qualify to use this resource? Am I bad enough? Is the crisis severe enough? So messaging about how it's really available to anybody who needs it, including people like us who provide care, including people at the call centers to call 988 themselves. So I loved that somebody talked about that. As suicide loss survivors, we wondered if we could share our why. And so there's a beautiful story. Like for me, the person I lost was Sydney. So could I celebrate Sydney by saying, Sydney 988, and so somebody talked about getting a fidget and putting their loved one's name on it and giving those away. So I think the more we can personalize it, so it's not just a number, it's about people. It's about you and me and our family and friends. So giving people space and permission to really personalize it. Using QR codes. And so people asked to put QR codes on the posters and signage so that people could easily connect to all the resources. A great idea about creating an ambassador toolkit. So folks who say, there's a lot of people in our community who would want to help. Can we make a toolkit for them? So not for professionals, but for our friends and family and community members. And so you can message that as like an ambassador toolkit was a great idea. There's also a desire to think about rural communities. How does this play out in Peoria? How does this play out in military communities? And so the different creative populations that we want to really try to reach. The last thing was to emphasize that it's a free resource. So it's compassionate help anytime, anywhere. Put that word free in there, a free, compassionate resource for help. Thank you all.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sarah, for that. I know we're at time, guys, but I do want to give the last two facilitators just an opportunity to do a quick speak out. So if you want to stay with us for just a couple of minutes, Stephanie B. You should be able to hear me. There
Sorry,
you go.
it was taking a second. So my group was a little less familiar with 988. And so what we really focused on was the 988 toolkit, the partner toolkit, and how they can customize some of their efforts. They had some really, really great ideas and strategies though. So I was in the faith-based and community leader group, the first one, and we talked about discussing 988 awareness strategies with youth pastors and having a virtual call where they get together and they discuss their strategies and then have a mental health and suicide prevention and awareness event for their mass or their Sunday service where they're spreading the word of 988, because there's several people that might go and turn to their faith when they're in crisis, and not every faith leader is going to be adequately prepared to help them in every way that they can, but they can connect them with this free service that can connect them to the resources they need. So it's really great. And also looking at suicide prevention awareness week and the observances of those that we've lost to suicide as an opportunity to spread awareness and educate their congregations and their communities about 988 and that resource. And lastly, a really creative way to partner with victim advocacy groups and to find ways to get that resource, that education and awareness to those who have experienced trauma.
Thanks, Bree. I was in one of the youth and social media groups, and I think one of our main takeaways was user-generated content, really letting youth share their experiences through the social media campaigns, utilizing those toolkits to help frame the message and give them ideas, but really calling upon some of our youth advisory councils to give them ideas and help frame messages that would work best for our youth.
Thank you for that, Megan. All right, I see Dean. How about you?
Perfect. Hi, everyone. Yeah, we were in one of the general groups, and one of the key themes that really resonated was there's a lot of in-person activities or visual things that are happening in the real world, and both grabbing people to do those events together and using that content for social media came up a lot. One person from Buffalo, New York, talked about how there are 988 signs near Niagara Falls. So they planned on getting some of those photos and highlighting the resources, and then also using that for social media. Another person in our group really liked, I forget where in the nation used this last year, but they did a rock painting. And so again, bringing especially college students together to do rock paintings about 988, and then again, using that for social media was a big theme.
Wow, that is awesome, Dean. Thank you for sharing that with us. Jasmine, I see your hand as well.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. We had a ton of great ideas, but I'm going to just highlight one just to keep the theme of everyone highlighting one. One thing that came up that was really important for our team, we represented workforce, was to highlight milestones. And we gave an example of some of the statistics from the surveys after each call of a 90% success rate, or the number of chats they've completed, to broaden the exposure of the service in the community and raise awareness and create comfort of saying there are a ton of people who use this service and experience it really well. This is an option for you too.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Jasmine. Cindy.
Hi, everyone. So my group was the lived experience group, and I just want to highlight two things. The first thing was really using on social media things that people are already familiar with. So like the TikTok dances, like incorporating those into like amplifying the 988 message. is one strategy. Another thing that we talked about is in that same line is someone had a great idea to use like similar to the Love Actually, you know, when he holds up the signs in the movie saying that like, for you, I love you. It's like a romantic part, but like a lot of people use the signs to get the message to do that. But to talk about how you matter and we're here for you and 988 anytime, anywhere, compassionate help. So that's what I'll share. But thank you to the Lived Experience group.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that, Cynthia. Tyler, I see your hand next.
Yeah, we were the accessibility group. Talked about a lot of good things, so I'll just share the one that stuck with me the most. We talked a lot about how trust is a vital part of accessibility, and you can't really have accessibility without trust from the people you're trying to get access for. And so we talked about ways that we've seen trust built and areas where we can see the concept of trust in different communities be better addressed to build trust more so that the system truly is accessible.
Thank you for sharing that, Tyler. That's awesome. Zachary.
Yeah, so I was with the travel group and we kind of dived into the 988-day engagement social media part of it. I'll just share two things that we were able to talk about was basically tailoring the message and making it relatable for Native communities. And one example that I shared with here in Oklahoma that we did was a PSA project that he started, and it was titled "Auntie Says It's Okay to Ask for Help." And one thing we talked about how in Native communities we use humor a lot to communicate, and we use it to connect, and we use it to basically talk about a lot of the tough things. And that's something that was a common theme among how we all how everybody's doing their jobs when they're talking about these topics in their communities. So that was one thing I love to see, especially being Native American and somebody who's used 988. Just knowing that that's something that we all share in common, and I think that's something that a lot of people relate to. And the second thing was identifying the different partners and who all would be a stakeholder, you guess you could say, in a Native community. And we went down a whole list of, going from IHS, having different PSAs at a lot of these different places where Native people gather, whether it was community centers, a lot of these different things, a lot of the powwows that happen around our communities, just being present and meeting people where they are. We just tried to talk about how we could spread the awareness and the messaging of 988 and just sharing anything. And we also shared about any past events or anything that we're going to have. And one thing was Kristen, when our group shared with us, was they had a mental wellness day not that long ago where they partnered with, the whole lot of medical providers in their community, from the State Department to local organizations to the whole local coalition that they built to serve their tribal community. So once again, yeah, it was a great group to be a part of, just to hear how we all work together to make sure that we're all providing these critical services for our community. So thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing all those insights, Zachary. We truly appreciate that. Michelle.
We had a great talkative group, lots of ideas, a lot of getting into the communities, really getting Wisconsin, they went into the coffee shops, set up a table with lots of swag and had lots of different coffee shops around the state. South Carolina had like put messaging on pizza boxes, especially with the colleges and everything, late night pizza orders and those type of things. Another good thing was having 988 day and 988 in general on coasters, and having them on. A lot of folks didn't know about the SAMHSA free website to get some swag for 988 day also. A lot of getting the community involved with legislations, having the Capitol Day, with the schools, where they're trying to having difficulty to get into the schools and getting help with the schools, deciding to do an event outside of the school a few days before 988 Day and promoting 988 Day, having a sort of a rally regarding and getting people with the survivors of suicide loss involvement in those two. Also, trying to find ideas about how to get law enforcement and military involvement was a big thing. So if anybody has any of those ideas to share, we had some, but we were kind of limited with getting involved in those groups, and pairing it with 911 Day, possibly. Fireside chats was an idea, and a cool idea, a creative thing was on Reddit, like an Ask Me Anything, have a 988 counselor on there and to have questions.
That is awesome, Michelle. It sounds like you guys had some really great
Yeah, they
conversation
were
going.
very, very interactive there. Great group for our general group.
Thank you for sharing that. We have Lydia as our last facilitator that's going to share with us today. Thank you, Lydia.
Yes, thank you. I was a facilitator of the second youth group, and there were two themes that really emerged in that discussion. One was creativity, so being as creative as possible with the online outreach that is being done. People threw out things like challenges, dance challenges, even a 988 mascot, just really having an online presence that's attention-getting, that's quick, and that's creative. And then the second focus was really on local connections. So we had great ideas about including 988 on local sports jerseys or merchandise, connecting peer-to-peer in schools, and just having a local focus in coffee shops and libraries and communities. So those were the two themes we came up with.
Thank you so much for sharing those ideas, Lydia. And thank you for all of our facilitators and all of our attendees who've participated and engaged in the conversation and dialogue. You guys have had some amazing ideas. So we're super excited to see how you guys put this into action as we lead up to 988 Day. And before we wrap up, I did want to give an opportunity for Nicole to share any last words or thoughts. But again, I do want to extend a heartfelt thank you to everyone for showing up today and sharing space and continuing to do great work.
Thank you, Bree. I'm just really grateful for everyone who turned out today for this activation workshop. The ideas we heard here were great. I don't think we can really overstate the importance of everyone's creativity and engagement in making 988 Day a success this year. Everyone's involvement and support of the 988 Lifeline and mental health advocacy is really important to the work that we continue to do. So just thank you. Thank you for all your support. And we look forward to seeing what everyone does on September 8th. Thank you.